This is Daniel Brettig with Ian Chappell talking for ESPN Cricinfo on the second day of the fourth and final test between Australia and India at Adelaide Oval. Ian, another day of batting domination by Australia and just another very dark day for India.
Yeah. I mean, they performed so well on the first morning, the first session. To get 3 wickets on a good Adelaide pitch in the first session is a terrific effort. But unfortunately, the effort didn't last very long, and by halfway into the second session, they really faded and dropped back into the state of mind that they've been in for a lot of this series, which is to sort of sit back and wait for the batsman to make mistakes. Well, when you've got players of the class of Ponting and Clark on a good Adelaide Oval pitch, they're not going to make many mistakes. And guess what? The 2 double centuries follow. But it also shows you the class of those 2 players, but the need when you get started to go on with it, because if you look at the rest of the Australian card, there wasn't a lot of runs there. Really a disappointing performance from India, but a very, very good performance from Ponting and Clark.
Is that as well as you've seen Ponting play in the past 3 or 4 years?
I thought Ponting played better than he did in Sydney. When Ponting's playing well off the back foot, I think that's when he's in pretty good form. And I think his form here in Adelaide is certainly as good, as the best I've seen this season. And I think he'd be pretty happy with it.
Have you seen evidence of evolution in his game? You talked last night about guys like himself, Sachin, Dravid, Kallis, not being able to play the same way throughout their whole career.
Well, I mean, that's one of the things why I really admired Brian Lara. I thought that Lara is one of the few players that I've ever seen who basically played in the same style from the start of his career to the end of his career. And that's a pretty amazing thing. I did it, when people were carrying on about Tendulkar not being the player that he used to be, I did a little exercise and I took Bradman's, because you can't get balls faced from too many innings in the past, but I was able to get Bradman's 334 at Headingley and got the strike rate on that occasion. And then I looked up his series in 1948 in England when he toured as about a 40-year-old man. And there was about a run per over difference. Obviously the 1930 Bradman scored at a run and over quicker than the 1948 Bradman. So, I mean, if there's that sort of deterioration in a guy like Bradman, everybody's got to expect that as they get older, they're going to slow down. I mean, a few years ago, you wouldn't have had Michael Clark outscoring Ricky Ponting the way he did here in Adelaide. But that's not to say that you can't be effective. And I think you'd have to say that Ponting playing the way he has in the last couple of test matches is still very effective.
Michael Clark, by contrast, is a younger man and appears to be very much at the peak of his powers, both as a batsman and also as an emerging captain. Yeah,
I always thought a batsman's peak years are, say, 27 to 32. And that's one of the reasons, and there are many reasons in my opinion, why you've got to be looking at picking guys at, say, 20, 21, 22, batsmen particularly. Because they're probably going to have a down period and they're probably going to go out of the team, as both Ponting and Clark did and everybody else has done. But then when you come back, you sort of come back at 25 years, you're a bit more matured, you've had that kick in the backside, you're a better player for it, and you've still got your peak years ahead of you. So I think that Michael Clark is probably right in the middle of his peak years at the moment, and I don't think you'd have any trouble convincing the Indian bowlers that he is.
By contrast, Shaun Marsh obviously has had a very dire series. What would be your suggestion for what's to be done about him, so particularly between now and the start of the West Indies tour, should they decide to take him?
Well, I still need a lot of convincing about Shaun Marsh being a number 3 batsman for Australia. That's the first thing. And I'm not saying that since he's had a few failures, because I felt that right at the start. But, to me, there's only one panacea for when you're struggling, and that's to go back to first-class cricket and make some runs and make a pile of them. And to me, the thing that's going to be interesting with Australian cricket, because one concern I have got is the young batsmen of the future to come in and replace Ricky Ponting and Michael Hussey and those guys. But next season we're going to have probably 9 or 10 fast bowlers who have all played Test cricket, and some of them quite successfully. You know, i.e. we're going to have Mitchell Johnson coming back, you're going to have Copeland, you're going to have Hazelwood, in addition to the 4 or 5 guys that have played for Australia this summer. So there could be anything up to about 10 guys who have played decent Test cricket, and yet half of them are playing in the first class competition. And so the young batsmen are going to be coming up against some Test match standard bowlers, and hopefully there'll be 2 or 3 of them who will really stand up and say, you know, I'm ready for Test cricket. And you know, Shaun Marsh would be one of those young batsmen who has to go back to first class cricket and make some runs.
And lastly, India. A lot of teams in the first innings at Adelaide Oval have been made to look ordinary down the years. But is there any consolation whatsoever can be taken from this couple of days for India?
Yeah, the wicketkeeper, Saha. I thought Saha's performance was very, very good in that, and not just his glove work. I thought that was good. But to me, the important thing with Saha was when all were falling around him and, you know, misfielding and you know, really putting in an effort that you would have to think, you know, I don't feel good about that effort. Saha, with all that going on around him, he didn't let his standards drop for 1 second. I thought he was terrific. Yeah, there's a few other positives, but you know, the problem for India has been the 2 captains they've had so far this summer, or in this summer, have not really aided the bowlers too much at all. Some of the field placings are abysmal. And as I said, it's let's contain these batsmen and sit back and wait for them to make a mistake. Now, young bowlers like Ashwin and Ishant Sharma, Yadav, yeah, they're not going to learn much under that sort of captaincy. But then also, those bowlers need to kick in the backside as well, because if they should be saying to the captain, hey, listen, these field placings are not helping me one little bit. Now let's get them sorted out. But the bowlers don't seem to be saying that. So there's not much to be positive about India's performance. I mean, particularly when you throw in what they did in England, because I thought they capitulated pretty quickly and pretty badly in England, and they've done the same here again.
The pattern is now well established. Thanks, Ian.